Good morning, or whatever it is. Good evening, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Whatever confronts you, don't believe it, says Linji. Have faith in the light that's always shining inside you. It's always working inside you. One of the things, what confronts us? Something we think about ourselves. Oh, I could never do that. What? This is impossible. I used to try to work in the world of journalism a long time ago. And one of the things that I saw and learned myself is when you went to write a story, or even like I used to make documentaries, and there was a tremendous temptation to save the main point till the end. Like, oh, well, I'm going to lead the people all the way through, and then they'll really get it, and I'll really hit them with it. But that's actually that's not the case. So when I was thinking about our meeting this morning, as I shared in the announcement, one of the things I want to share with you is my what we did last weekend, where there was a transmission ceremony for me, and so I'm just going to launch right in to sharing that with you. And so last weekend, some of the members of PZI, a very small group, gathered in Bolinas, a place where we have retreats sometimes. And we had a great retreat in which one of the things we all explored is that how that light inside of us is not separate from things we think we don't like about ourselves, and being willing to turn towards those things. And then on Saturday evening, we had a ceremony of transmission. And traditionally, what is that? What is transmission? Like what is that? Basically, I became, instead of being a sensei as a Zen teacher, I became a Roshi. And so that's kind of a transmission from John to me. But the transmission is it's a recognition of a mutual understanding, not a giving of something magical, but more recognizing what's already here and giving me authority then to teach in a different way, and authority to make teachers, and to formally, through a ritual, become part of a lineage of teachers that goes way, 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 way back, even to the Buddha. And that was something I said that I noticed in the ceremony that really surprised me. Was there was one point where John asked for blessings from the ancestors on me and my teaching, and that felt very real and alive in a way I hadn't expected. Also, traditionally, I think when you have a ceremony like that, sometimes there's just a really small number of people and they do it around midnight, and maybe nobody knows. And then later on, they have more of a ceremony of celebration with more people. And so this morning or today, whatever time it is for you, that's kind of what this is. And this whole idea may be very meaningful to you. You may attach a lot of ideas to it, or it may be foreign and very unimportant. And that's, all those things are okay. But it's part of what we are and what we do. And so I'm sharing it, you know. And So part of what happens in the ceremony is um, I receive a new rakusu with a new name, and the rakusu is this thing that we wear around our necks. And I wanted to tell you sort of some of what happened for me with getting my rakusu. So I decided to do it's. I feel, I don't know. I think so. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my earphones in so I can feel like I can talk to you. I hope this works. This is kind of crazy because probably for a lot of people, this makes you feel more distant. Can you still hear me? Can you hear me? Great. Uh, thank you. Thanks for bearing with me. And I hope you'll hear the bell. So we decided that we would do this, and I would do this, that John would do it, that the community would do this, and I would become a Roshi after summer session. And so I knew that one of the aspects was to get a new rakusu. And so so traditionally the teacher's rakusus are made out of what they call an obi, a maru obi, which has printing, like has a design on both sides of it and is part of a formal kimono, kind of something that somebody would wear around their waist. And my plan was to find some fabric for mine, and then to give it to an expert to turn it into a rakusu. And so I started looking online, and Tess and some other people gave me links to look at to pick some fabric. And I was looking at the fabric and I thought, I don't know, I don't know what these fabrics are really like. I want to feel fabric. Somehow I wanted to feel the fabric. And so I thought, well, I'll just go around and I'll find some, that I can actually pick up and touch. And so I started doing that, and I started looking to see where there was in the Bay Area that had antique Japanese obis, and I had this idea that I looked at other people's, and I wanted something like kind of an earthy, maybe blue and green sort of color with really small pattern that would be easy, because on the rakusu, one of the things it symbolizes is a rice field, and it's cut in. There's very small sort of patchwork pattern, So I thought small design would be good, and I went to a number of different stores. I went to Japantown in San Francisco. I think I went to 5 or 6 places, and every time I went in, and I thought, oh, I don't know, these aren't right. And one time I walked by a Japanese antique store down a couple, hour and a half away from me. And I thought, oh, maybe I could go there. But it was closed. And later on, I called them. This is a long, long way to tell you this, but I'm telling you anyway. So anyway, I called the place and I said, do you have any antique Japanese obis? And I spoke with a woman. She was clearly Japanese, and she says, oh yes, I have some. Yes. And so it happened that I was coming back down to that area the next day, and I thought, okay, I have a hair appointment early in the afternoon, and then I'll go and I'll look at these obis. I was kind of getting used to this of walking into stores, not seeing anything I liked, and walking out. So then the gal who was doing my hair pushed my appointment back by a couple hours. And I thought, okay, well, I should still have time. So, but the hair appointment went long. The store closed at 5. I think my hair appointment ended at like maybe 10 of 5 at the best. And it was, down the way. And I decided, no, I've got to go. I've got to go to this store. And I raced with my car. I barely worried about parking. I certainly didn't pay for parking. And I went up to the store. And already at this point, something was feeling, it had that kind of unusual, like something was propelling me forward, right? And the store was this store full of Japanese antiques with wooden stairs that stepped down. You had to step down 3 stairs or so to get into the store. And I got to the doorway and I said to the woman, I'm the person who called you about the Japanese obies. Are you still open? Can I come look at them? And she said, oh, yes, yes, yes. Come right in. Come right in. And she takes me over to a little display, and there was a pile of what were probably obies. And I could tell looking at them, I was like, oh, no, I don't think, these are particularly not exciting. But I looked at them a little bit. And then I looked up and I looked to my left and I saw this other piece of fabric. And I thought, oh, that's cool. That's pretty. What about that one? And she said, oh, that's nice, but that's very expensive. And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, how expensive? And she says, $75. Well, all the other ones I'd been looking at were about, a few hundred at the least. So I was like, $75? Okay, I'll take it. And I barely looked at it. I looked at it enough to know that I loved it. Right off the bat, I loved it. And so as the woman was packing it up, she started telling me, she said, oh, I bought this from my friend in Osaka. And she said, he didn't want to sell it to me, but I told him he had to. I needed to have it. And so then she's walking towards the register and she's talking about it. And she was like, well, why do you want it? And I tried to tell her, but she didn't know anything about rakusus or anything like that. And but as she's I think before I even told her that, she said, I got this for you. I think it's for you. I think this is for you. And it was just a very interesting. I felt like I was being carried. And so I wanted to share with you what the fabric, and that was a thing too, it called to me. I just loved it, even though everything about it was wrong in terms of it was not blue and earth colored and did not have a small design. And I'll share with you what the original fabric looked like if I can here. And I know this isn't the greatest thing to do, but I want to do it anyway. So, okay, so that is kind of part of what it looked like. It was smaller than most obies, and it just was different colored phoenixes and flowers going all the way up with this sort of red-orange background and some water and things like that, right? So I thought, I don't even know if they can make that into a rakusu, but I'm going to try. I'm going to see what happens. And actually, I was pretty concerned that even the other people in PZI might go, what the heck? And so but nobody, I got the okay to keep going with it. And so a couple of other things, when I was in the store and I was getting this thing, the experience of being with this woman, and I know it was just, it had this completely, everything was alive and alight and this really magical feeling. And the woman started pulling things, started adding to my purchase. And so first she pulled out something else I'm going to show you. She pulled out something and she said, here you go. Okay, she said, this is the receipt for this cloth that I bought from my friend in Osaka. And she said, this is ancient Japanese script, and I can't really tell. It's hard for me to read, but I can read a tiny bit. And she said it's from, what did she say, Meiji No, I don't. I wrote it down anyway. It's sort of like from the late 1800s, is what she said. And so anyway, I thought this was very cool. And I spent a lot of time with ChatGPT trying to figure out what it said. And I also shared it with my Japanese reading friends, including JJ and David and Sarasa, David's wife. And I still don't know. It's still a project, but it doesn't really matter. It was just fun and I liked it. And then the other thing that she gave me, she goes, oh, something else. So she goes, I want to give you this postcard. So bear with me and show and tell here. So she gives me this postcard that looked like this, and it's of a temple in Kyoto that I had visited actually, a couple years earlier when some of the PZI people took a trip to Kyoto. And I think on the front of it, the postcard just said like, this is the main stage at Kiyomizu-dera, which is, which is what the temple is. Maybe I said that. I'm going to show you a picture I actually took of it. And so this is when I was there in Japan. I took a picture of the same thing. And what was interesting about this, so you can see in the distance, this temple with this platform outside on these really, really tall, high posts. And the writing on the postcard just said something like, to leap off the stage at Kiyomizu, the temple. But I looked this up as well out of curiosity, and there's a proverb. Actually, this is the proverb. To leap off the stage at Kiyomizu is a proverb that sort of goes with the idea of this whole temple, which is basically to take a bold plunge, to take a decisive risk with no turning back. So I thought that was kind of cool. So anyway, I took a bold risk, no turning back, a bold risk after almost 30 years of having been in Zen. It was about 28 years ago that I met John. And so it wasn't exactly a speedy thing. So yeah, I'm going to share one more photo, so I'll be done with this so you can see. So last weekend, I sent my Rakusu. I sent that material off, sent it to a place called Still Sitting, and someone turned that piece of fabric into a Rakusu. And that Rakusu, John took the Rakusu and he painted on the back of it, and he wrote my new name. And that was presented to me at the ceremony last weekend. And that was part of what we did. And it's amazingly hard for me to talk about this. It's very interesting. So anyway, I'm going to show you one more picture. And this is a picture of the Rakusu and how it turned out. And you can see me wearing it with John Joseph, JJ. And on my head is a crown of flowers that was presented to me as part of the ceremony. It was Jan Brogan had an image of me with the, crown on my head. And she said, who can manifest this and make this real? And Christina Schmiegel made that. And as a sort of special blessing on my head. And it was a lot of fun. And the Rakusu came out great. It's very beautiful. And that's it for sharing of pictures. And the name that I was given is Flowers Fall at the Pavilion on the Golden River. So that's my name. Flowers fall at the pavilion on the Golden River. Um, I also received a scroll that John painted, which is really, he might say something about it. It's behind me here. You can see, you see like the whole thing there. It's an image of a dragon as well as my new name, and I think it's painted on silk. There's some gold painting, and yeah, transmission of the light. It says transmission of the light. Um, that same light we all have. Uh, and I was telling during the ceremony about how I first came to this group almost 28 years ago in 1997. And my partner and I went to a meditation meeting in Oakland and met that where David Weinstein was holding meetings, and John came, and I went to met with John and Jokson, shook hands. 2 weeks later, I was at a 7-day session with my partner, and so I found a copy of what was supposedly the talk that was given on the opening night of that session by John, and I wanted to share just a tiny bit of it, not so much, but just because that it was that kind of ushered me into this practice, and the same stuff is still true. So I guess I wanted to honor that in some way as part of the transmission. So I'm just going to read you a couple of small bits from that. The path is our path and belongs to no one else. We must walk our path and no one else's. Our meditation practice is as uniquely our own as our DNA signature. In the most profound sense, I or any teacher or any person can have nothing to say about anybody else's path except to share what I have seen to work and to offer encouragement. Our demons appear, and sometimes they're very strong, but at least they are our demons and not some gray despair that is an avoidance of demons. They're ours, and we must know them as ours, and whatever they look like, and somehow have compassion for the human condition in the midst of that. The wisdom of Zen really leads into kindness, and the kindness of Zen leads into wisdom. This is one of the deepest things. We can let life happen. It is safe to just go deep, and anything at all is allowed to come up. Any fear, loathing, greed, or ennui. We find the worst things about ourselves, and we see that this too is human. It's not alien to us. Then we find that the best things about being human are also not alien to us. Meditation takes away the veil between our sense of self and of the world. We are no longer alienated or separated from the trees, the birds, the land, and each other. If I truly enter my own meditation, it is vast. That vastness itself teaches us what it wants of us. It teaches us how to live and how to love. And another way of saying that, whatever confronts you, don't believe it. Have faith in the light that is always shining and working inside of you. We're all of us really fortunate to be able to walk a path that turns us towards our own selves and our own nature. I've thought to myself, I don't hear people say this that much, but that Zen practice, one way I think of Zen practice is it's a little like becoming more of an adult, not an adult in a sort of boring, staid, respectable way, perhaps less of that, but in the kinds of ways that you might have imagined as a child, like, oh, when I'm an adult, I won't worry about these things. I'll feel comfortable and at home in my own skin. I'll know, I'll have an idea what to do. And Zen practice is all about that part, not about what that actually looks like, because it's different for each person. It's different for each one of you, but it's an insane blessing to walk that path and to do it with each other. And a big important part of it is meditation. So let's do some of that. Just to meditate, just to sit quietly. That's enough. So I think I'll ask a few people if you have anything you might like to say or share. We'll start. Allison, would you like to say anything?
The question of where does music come from? Where does transmission come from? And what you were saying about it being a recognition of something that already exists, something that's inside each person. And I remember giving a talk once, I think it was another transmission ceremony we had at a retreat at Santa Sabina, and I gave a whole talk on transmission and how the history of it, and how actually transmission is something that's always occurring moment to moment, that the fog outside is giving me transmission of its fogness, and the oak tree is transmitting its oakness. And how during your ceremony, Jordan McConnell was so kind to have brought through customs, which I think was a dangerous, dangerous move, his bagpipes and his pipes, which I just so adore and so thankful for the ceremony. And at one point, it was in the beginning of the ceremony, he played a piece of music that I think it's called the music of the fairies, and it has a marvelous story behind it about transmission, where and Seamus Heaney wrote a poem about this, where there are these islands in the very, very northern part of Ireland called the Blaskets, and a fisherman was out there a long, long time ago. He was also a fiddler, and there was people would hear music coming from this one island, an uninhabited island, and he was near there fishing one day, and he hears the music, and he has his fiddle with him, and he picks up his fiddle and he starts playing along with the music and try to capture it and memorize it and gain transmission of this piece of music. And so he captured it and he brought it back and played it, and that's the piece that Jordan played at the transmission ceremony. And it ends, it's this these layers and layers of notes that build, and so it sounds almost like there's 4 or 5 people playing different bagpipes, and it's this roar of sound that it suddenly and unexpectedly stops and you enter into silence. And it's so powerful. It reminds me of like descriptions of people talk about the eye of a hurricane, where you're in this roaring wind and then suddenly there's nothing. And I'm going to read you the Seamus Heaney poem that he wrote about this. It's called The Given Note. On the most westerly blasket, in a dry stone hut, he got this air out of the night. Strange noises were heard by others who followed, bits of a tune coming in and out of weather. Though nothing like melody, he blamed their fingers and ear as unpracticed. So he's saying here that other people couldn't capture it, but somehow he was able to. Their fiddling easy, for he had gone alone into the island and brought back the whole thing. The house throbbed like his full violin. So whether he calls it spirit music or not, I don't care. He took it out of wind off mid-Atlantic. He took it out of wind off mid-Atlantic, and still he maintains from nowhere. It comes off the bow gravely, rephrases itself into the air. That's it.
Thank you. This song that Jordan sang for us just now while we were meditating was one he actually introduced me to last weekend, and it's kind of the same thing of that, where does a song come from? The note appears. Hold the note, let go of the note. And it was very beautiful. So thanks. Thank you. John, would you like to say anything?
Sure. I was thinking how much transmission is sort of thick with ancestors and tradition, and we call the ancestors in to bless the teacher, and I like that. Even the calligraphy is like we always have a dragon on the calligraphy scroll. That's a character for dragon, not the dragon, but I think that one's escaping into being an actual dragon. You're right. It's like that's a very Zen thing of how you paint something on the wall, paint the crane on the wall, and eventually it flies off. so, so it's a great thing, and the dragon signifies the Koan lineage. And what does the Koan lineage signify? It's a strange thing. I was in the middle of the night. I woke up and I was thinking about. I was just doing some koans with a friend. We were taking them through the koans, and we got to a certain place in the koans, and then I couldn't remember doing the next couple of koans. I've been sick a lot, and sometimes things disappear, Although I feel great now. And so it was a funny thing. So I just laid back down and thought, oh, well, I'll have to get the koan response from where it came from, not from my notes. I probably have notes, but who knows? And it was rather wonderful because then it came in the night, and how it's an expression of the vitality of life. And so that's what dragons do too. It's the insight and vitality of life. And so it's nice to have. It's also nice to have Michelle having accumulated this so slowly and gradually, and so it becomes very thick and layered. The whole wisdom tradition, and the ancestors bless it. So I guess that's what I have to say. Thank you. A nice thing to have around, Michelle. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I like that story about, I don't remember those koans. Where do I go for for the response. Ah, we know where they come from. And that's constantly, I find in myself, that reaching somewhere else. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they know. Let me find it in that book, Like, no, like inside, inside. I like, Eduardo, would you like to say anything?
Yes, Michelle, congratulations. I was very happy to hear about it. I'm very touched by the ceremony as you described it. But what touched me most is your new name. I don't know why, but tears came into my eyes when I heard your new name. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another part of the ceremony that symbolizes what you sacrifice in a way in someone walking the path, and you get a lock of hair cut off from your head, which, as it's happening, John was given some scissors, and I'm looking at him with the scissors, and then he sort of grabs some hair, and Jesse Carden started saying, "Oh, oh, oh!" I thought I might end up bald, but I didn't. But I can tell I lost some hair. Anyway, and that to introduce Jesse. Jesse, would you like to say anything?
Oh. Yeah, I remember that moment. It was great. David Weinstein, who gave me transmission, took it right off the front of my head. So it's a roll the dice with PZI people. Yeah, it's just nice to have you with the fancy Rakusu, and that's a beautiful story about the finding the OB, and I have Rakusu envy, and also Rakusu fabric choosing envy. That I appreciate the way that it seems you just jumped onto the path of the searching for the fabric in a way that I think, oh, when this Rakusu, if it ever wears out and I need to get a new one, then that will be it'd be a nice way to do it, a little bit more adventurous than I tend to be out in the world. I really like the talk of John's that you brought up from your first session, particularly the thing about there are a couple of things, but one of the things about I'm paraphrasing, but better to have your demons than the cold gray despair that comes from avoiding your demons. And and that had a resonance for me with the whatever confronts you, don't believe it. Since usually my way of whatever I believe is usually in some way holding off life, and oftentimes holding off the demons that are trying to help me get free. And so I just appreciated that. I think I'll take that lock of hair with me today. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesse. One of the people who talks about the concept of our demons, or that they have something for us, is Rilke, one in his letters to a young poet, and that was coming to me a lot just thinking about today, and the whole idea that he brings up, that don't think it's a problem if you're anxious and sad and you feel like things are not okay. That is in his mind like the way that something enters inside of you that is yours, and it transforms if you don't look away from it. So I'm just going to read one little thing of what he says. Many signs indicate that the future enters into us in this way as sadness, in order to transform itself in us long before it happens. And this is why it is so important to let yourself be lonely and to be attentive when one is sad, because the apparently uneventful and stark moment at which our future sets foot in us is so much closer to life than that other noisy and fortuitous point of time at which it happens to us as if from the outside. Why do you want to shut out of your life any agitation, any pain, any melancholy, since you really do not know what these states are working upon you? That's Rilke. There's a poem probably a lot of you are familiar with, but I wanted to read it. It's called Last Night as I Was Sleeping by Antonio Machado. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt marvelous error, that a spring was breaking out in my heart. I said, along which secret aqueduct, O water, are you coming to me? Water of a new life that I have never drunk. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that I had a beehive here inside my heart, and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that a fiery sun was giving light inside my heart. It was fiery because I felt warmth as from a hearth, and sun because it gave light and brought tears to my eyes. Last night as I slept, I dreamt, marvelous error, that it was God I had in here inside my heart. It's a kind of a blessing. So I want to ask somebody else to speak at the ceremony this past weekend. Another feature of it was we were blessed with droplets of water from a couple of water sprites. One of them was Amelia. Amelia, do you have anything you'd like to say? It doesn't have to do anything, have anything to do with water sprites.
I don't have anything to say right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amelia. Wonderfully done. One might say, is there anything lacking? But no, there is nothing lacking. And I'm going to read you one more poem. And it's by Billy Collins, and it's called Water, Water, on the theme of water and water blessings. I do some of my best thinking when standing on the bottom of a lake, up to my chin in lake water. I like squinting down the length of it or staring up at the violet sky. I don't care if my head looks like a beach ball from the shore, as long as the lake water holds me up and I keep my balance with extended arms. One morning, standing in Lake Ontario, I could remember no greater happiness. Unable to contain this feeling, I took a step, and for a moment I was beside myself. This kind of thing can go on for some time, thoughts running around my head like a stampede of antelopes, only sometimes one of the young stumbles and is set upon by a pack of cheetahs. This is the doomsayer thought about the future, the lake drying up and leaving me abandoned, or rising above its banks to inundate me. Such are the two most basic human fears, as if both could not occur at once, as they do when I dream that I am both alone and being smothered by a dozen women. Meanwhile, swimmers swim by on their way to sunbathe on a raft. A speedboat lifts me a little in its wake. All part of life when you are half afloat and half bouncing off the sandy floor with your toes. And I'm far enough from shore not to hear the shouts of foreboding and calamity. I know the end is near. Seawater will rise and flood the aquifers. The basement sofa will begin to float. So hard to picture it from here, though. What with the sentinel pines along the shoreline and just enough water to fill the lake exactly to the brim. And thus we have filled our lake exactly to the brim. I'm so grateful to everybody for being here, and to you musicians, Michael, Jordan, to everybody who spoke. Thanks. Thanks for celebrating with me here today. Thank you all.